Want to know how to make reusable Cricut stencils to create this DIY welcome sign?
Yes!
Well then keep watching for a step-by-step tutorial, and at the end of the video, I'll share a featured blooper. Hi, my name is Kim with Kimagine DIY, where I hope to help you imagine the possibilities with DIYs and crafts. If that sounds like fun, consider subscribing. Now let's just jump right into this project. Here are the materials you will need. Your Cricut, standard grip mat, some stencil film, transfer tape, ruler, weeding tool, brayer and/or scraper, the rotary cutter, your black acrylic paint, stencil brush, blue tape, and some hot glue. Now let's open up Cricut Design Space. First, let's create our template for our board. Go to Shapes and pick Square and unlock it to size it up to your board. Mine is 9¼ inches by 72 inches, which is 6 feet. And I'm going to change the color to brown just for a visual wood reference. I want there to be a 6-inch gap at the top and bottom. So I'm going to Shapes to create another rectangle that is 6 inches in height and 10 inches wide. So it will be wider than my board. And click Duplicate. Highlight one of the smaller rectangles and the wood rectangle. Then go over to Align, click Align Top, and then click Align Center. Next, go over to Group It so it will stay together. Now highlight the second rectangle and your group shapes. Click Align, select Align Bottom, and then Align Center. Then go over to Group so all 3 pieces move as one. Now let's add some text. Click Text. With the text box still selected, go over to Font and pick your favorite style. To see how to upload free fonts into Cricut Design Space, you can click the card in the top right corner. Double-click within the text box to edit, and type in Welcome. Now use this arrow to resize your text for how large you would like to see it. Focus on how large you want the W to fit on the board. Every font is going to be different in size, and that's why I upped this part. Next, click the Advanced drop-down menu and select to ungroup the letters. Now zoom into your project and line up this line with an inch number. Then hover your W letter about an inch lower using your grid to help. You will do the same with your last letter E. Line up the bottom of your letter E 1 inch above your blank space template. Now you can set your letters vertically and spell out welcome. Highlight your entire project. Go over to Align and click Align Center horizontally. Now highlight your letters, which you can do in your Layers tab by holding down Shift, and you select each letter with your mouse. Once all are selected, go over to Align and click Distribute Vertically. Now all your letters are evenly spaced. Having only your letters still selected, click Weld to make them one image. Then ungroup all your layers. Select the Welcome layer and your Wood layer and hit Slice. And delete the letter layers. Then select the Wood layer and one of the rectangles and hit Slice. And repeat for the bottom one. Select the Wood and bottom rectangle and hit Slice. You can delete the excess squares. Now we're really getting somewhere. Depending on if you have a 24-inch mat, which I suggest for this, or using a 12-inch mat, will determine the stencil sections in this next step. I'm using a 24-inch mat, so I'm going to make 3 rectangles. Go over to Shapes and click Square, and make it 10 inches wide. Unlock your dimensions and put 17 inches for the height. Then I am changing the color to blue to represent the stencil film. Then use Ctrl and C to copy and Ctrl and V to paste to have a total of 3 rectangles. Then highlight the wood template and 1 blue rectangle and go over to Align and click Align Top and center horizontally. Then click Slice and delete the excess. Highlight the wood template and the next blue rectangle. Go over to Align, click Align Top and center horizontally. Then click Slice and delete the excess. Now highlight the wood template and the last blue rectangle. Go over to Align, and this time you're going to click Align Bottom. Center horizontally, then click Slice and delete your excess. Then with the O by itself, I just changed the color to blue. Now you can make it if you just want to paint the welcome sign. I want to make mine with an interchangeable O, so I'm going to make an adjustment here. Select the O stencil and duplicate it. Then go over to Shapes and click the square. This will be used for the magnet. Select one of the O stencils and click the contour button. And click the square so I can see the size of my letter. That way I can get an idea of the size of my magnet. I decided I want my magnet to basically fit inside the letter O. I will make it 1 inch by 4 inches. Now select the O and go back to the contour and select Hide All Contours. Highlight the magnet rectangle and the blue stencil. Go over to Align and click Center, and then click Slice. Delete your excess. Since I want to make an interchangeable sign, I'm going to hide the original O stencil so I can keep it for future use, and then click Make It. You can see Cricut is informing you that in order to cut this, you will need the longer mat. Click Continue. You can browse your material, but I have favorited the stencil film here. It says you can use a light grip mat or a standard grip mat for stencil film. I only have a long standard grip mat, which was the deciding factor for this project. When you roll out stencil film, I was using the bottom line as my guide to keep it straight. Then use your brayer to flatten the film. I cut about 1 inch larger than my stencil needed to be. Then load it into your Cricut machine to cut out your stencils. With my rotary blade, I personally like to cut any large excess pieces to keep for future projects. Then grab your transfer tape. Lay out your transfer material on top of your stencil and use your rotary blade to cut it out a little larger than your stencil. I am almost done using this contact paper, which I do not recommend. I put better alternatives in the description box for transfer tape. Then peel open about 1 inch of your transfer material and carefully line it up on top of your stencil. Slowly pull and use a scraper or a brayer to cleanly press the transfer flat. You will repeat these steps for all your stencils. Now let's grab your wood board. I have already sanded, stained, and put an outdoor top coating on my wood. Now I'm going to measure the 6-inch gap with my ruler and make the smallest mark I can with a pencil. Then use some painter's tape to create the line for my stencil to meet it. Do this for the top and bottom part of the wood. You want to do your best to lay the stencil flat with the help of a brayer or scraper. This is my first time doing this, so my first stencil was not flat at all, which proved to be very difficult when I had to apply it. Not to mention that using this contact paper for transfer tape was a bad idea. It was so sticky that it kept peeling my stencil off the wood, and I was constantly fighting it. The second stencil was a little easier, but I still ended up taking the contact paper off and just laying it down by hand. The last two letters though definitely needed good transfer tape because I had to keep repositioning the letters over and over in order to get it right without one. Since I was using the magnet in place of the O, I didn't bother cutting out transfer tape. I just laid it on top between the two stencils. For painting, I used a stencil brush, which has flat bristles. Then you want to stamp over the line of the stencil, which also helps secure the stencil down. Use a little bit of paint at a time to prevent any bleeding under the stencil. I did decide to paint 2 coats. With research, I heard a lot of pros and cons between waiting for the paint to dry or have it wet during the removal of the stencil. I chose to have it dry, but was still fearful of having the paint lift. So I was trying to reduce that by using my weeding tool to almost score the paint. I did have some paint lift, which now makes me feel like I should have just pulled it off when it was wet. For your projects, when do you pull your stencils up? With the paint wet or dry? For me, it wasn't that bad going back and fixing my edges by hand though. Once you're done touching up your letters, I used hot glue to fix my magnet in place. I cut my magnet out from leftover scraps from magnetic vent covers, but the company also sells magnetic tape rolls, which is also listed below. Then peel away your stencil. You will also want to glue a magnet to your interchangeable piece as well. Here's the finished product. I am so happy at how it turned out. If you would like to make this sunflower for your welcome sign, you can click the tutorial in the top right corner. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you'd like to see another video like this, you can click the card right up here or click here for an entire playlist. And don't forget to watch the blooper at the end, and I will see you guys in the next video. Want to know how to make some